Boom, we're hiring for intellectual value versus spec. Today's show is all about challenging your past behavior. What has worked for you in the past will not work for you in the future, especially true in hiring today. So, hire people who think beyond the job and who are hiring you and hire the people that you can give them runway to grow. This is the only way to spark innovation and propel growth of your business. Today's quote: none of us is as smart as all of us. Any idea who said that, Mr. Scott Hamilton?
Sounds like a Rick Gerard quote to
God, I
me.
wish it was. It's Ken Blanchard. I'm Rick Gerard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. Our mission is to help entrepreneurs and hiring managers avoid costly hiring mistakes. We do this by identifying a specific problem and provide proven solutions to enable your company to win the right hire. We share insights from top performing rebel entrepreneurs, industry experts, and disruptors like our guest today, Mr. Scott Hamilton. Scott is the president and CEO of Executive Next Practices Institute. So Scott is a well-known thought leader and speaker in the field of next practices improvement, of executive and workforce performance, and for global Fortune 5,000 through emerging companies. He's also the managing director of NextWork Strategy, a premier provider of strategy development, alignment, innovation, board effectiveness, and executive performance programs to mid-market companies. Both of these entities have been recognized by Forbes and the Orange County Business Journal as leaders in the fields of innovation, intrapreneurship, and strategic information. I got that right? Intrapreneurship?
Got it.
Which makes Scott the perfect guest for today's topic. Scott, welcome to the Higher Power Radio
Hey,
Show
Rick.
today.
Great to be here. Great to see you again.
Great to have you. Yeah, you're like a three-peat, right? We've had you on quite
Yeah,
a few
that's
times
right.
in the past. New studio. We figured we'd
Fantastic.
kick off with a new year
Awesome.
with you. Woo! All right,
What a way to
today.
start.
Yeah, right. So today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about intellectual value versus skills. We're going to talk about your talent innovation ecosystem. And then Scott's going to give us a 4-step process to maximize your hiring effectiveness. So let's start with the question of, most of our audience are entrepreneurs. Let's talk about the blinders that the entrepreneurs have in what they're doing now in the hiring process.
Yeah, well, here's the first thing is that if you look at what this is good for entrepreneurs as well as those running a billion-dollar enterprise, by the
True.
way.
Hiring
It's
managers.
good for both.
Yes.
But the blind side, here's the big issue, and this is a concern of anybody that's running a business, right? Your next competitor is likely going to come from your blind side. You're not going to be able to see them. They're not going to forecast that they're coming into your space.
Nope.
So it's always maintaining this peripheral vision about what's happening and hiring people who have peripheral vision, who aren't locked in to a particular way of thinking or a particular spec or in a particular box that they've always operated in.
Kind of gives me that image of the horse with the blinders on, right? So you just want them to
Exactly.
focus. So you want people who look around, who are going to test things. You want people who are going to innovate, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it might be
And
somebody
challenge you.
somebody outside your domain. That's the other important thing because you notice across most industry sectors that are being transformed today, that's been triggered by someone that came from outside their industry scope, outside their domain.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Well, like Uber, the cab companies didn't see Uber really coming. They should have, but they didn't.
The traditional mindset for Yellow Cab, innovation for them would have been to paint their cars black, right? That was thinking through in the box.
Let's make a big change this year.
That was the change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just exactly that. Not fundamentally rethinking everything you do. Yeah.
Okay. So where does past behavior come into play with this? I mean, we're all used to doing things a certain way, and we get in habits. We figure out what kind of works, and we usually stick with it. Why is it important to kind of really evaluate your past behavior?
Well, this is the old Jerry Seinfeld ref right? About we always can't wait to get up. If we're sitting, we can't wait to get up. If we're standing up, we can't wait to sit back down. If we're on a trip, we can't wait to get there. When we get there, we can't wait to get home. So we fall into these bad habits and
Yeah.
behaviors where we want to get to our comfort zone. And our past legacy behaviors has always been that: standardize, get comfortable, get into a niche, make a nest.
Sure.
And so we've got to constantly push against that mentality,
Got
that
it.
mindset.
Okay. And so, and you have to realize too that the hiring market, the landscape for people, for talent has changed tremendously. People don't want, or they're not going to put up with what is out there. They don't want the traditional interview process. They get bored of it. They're completely bored of it, and they don't get challenged, and they tune out. And then it just becomes a transactional, process.
I can't tell you the amount of frustration out there in the marketplace, people having to endure various types of interviews, which are based in the 90s, many of them in the 80s techniques, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The other
80s,
thing,
I would say like the 30s.
even the 30s, yeah, including the questions not supposed to ask.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though. The Gallup survey, you probably saw this past week, over 45% of people want meaningful purpose out of their work, a meaningful purpose. And yet we're not fulfilling that. And we're not answering it in the interview process. And we're not delivering it day by day. So that's another big issue.
Yeah, and that goes back to your point with the blinders. You have to open your eyes to what the people want around you. I mean, look, we can talk about culture and that all day long. The fact of the matter is that you really, if you want to build a great company, if you want to innovate, you have to make changes.
Yeah, and it's a continuous process.
Yeah.
And by the way, when we talk about innovation, there's a lot of pitfalls there. People, when you say innovation, they think you want to come up with the next Hyperloop or the next SpaceX, right? Often, innovation is incremental, and it takes you on a path to getting your product better. So rather than look at it as one big leap or a breakthrough, look at it as these incremental steps when you look at innovation.
There you go. All right, so why is it important that people hire people who can think above and beyond just the scope of their role?
Well, first of all, look at how you are approaching the hire. If you've set up a spec sheet, a job description, you've already lost. Because as soon as you start speccing it out, then you're starting to exclude potential people who can fill that role, who can think broader. So leave yourself enough room there.
I'm glad you're saying that and not me, by the way, because I preach this all the time.
Well, it's amazing. We have books and books of job descriptions and specs, and often we do the interviews based on the specs.
Yeah.
As opposed to looking at those that can think and think creatively, make correct judgments, make correct decisions, think broader. That's the kind of skill sets we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you look to some of the great leaders, you look at Steve Jobs, he used to say, we hire great people to tell us what to do, not so we can tell them what to do, right? Just things like that. I mean, give people room for growth.
Yeah, and remember that the greatest ideas are coming in those small spaces, big and small spaces in the work day where people aren't so focused on delivering, on doing. It's in those spaces where they can think that we're really making some improvement. And yet we often don't allow them time to think.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I'm going to add my 2 cents on the job description. If you think about what you want the person to accomplish and put that into a job description and maybe set performance standards, I talk about this all the time, 90 days, 1 year, 3 years, you're giving somebody a growth path, it's far more attractive and it's going to attract great people as opposed to people that are just looking for a job.
Yeah.
And look, there's nothing wrong with people that are looking for a job because, we've all been there. But if you want to grow and innovate your company, you need to hire the best person for that role. And it may be somebody who's looking for a job, but then again, it might not be.
Yeah. And also, when you're setting it up, when you're setting those performance goals, make sure it's the right performance metrics, obviously.
Yeah, they're attainable.
They're obtainable. They're not lagging metrics, but they're ones that look forward in terms of how to improve the performance of the organization, how they execute better, how they come up with more ideas. So again, the right kind of metrics are critical here.
Most definitely. All right, you're listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. I'm Rick Girard, and for our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. Check out what we do at stridesearch.com. There you'll find additional content, resources, and information on how you can book me to speak at your next meeting or conference. Our guest today is Scott Hamilton. Scott is the president and CEO of Executive Next Practices Institute, and we are talking about intellectual value versus skills. Really, I mean, I think this is kind of common knowledge, right? But I don't think we practice it. So how do we fix this problem? How do we really start getting ourselves in a mindset of, oh crap, I need to get this job filled, rather than, okay, I need to find the right person who's going to take us to infinity and beyond. Can I say that?
Right. Well, the bigger picture here is, and we started with talking about entrepreneurs and enterprise companies. First, look at your starting point. What is your strategy? What's your business model look like? And then we have a technique called next practice development, which applies to talent development, right? And how you hire. And the next practice development is composed of four key steps that we look at.
Okay. So
we
outline
can talk
the
a little
steps
bit about
for us.
that. Yeah, so at the top level, the four big ones are what you create, what you eliminate, what your strategy is, and then how you go about influencing, creating the right kind of culture. Right? So we'll take them step by step. We actually start with the elimination piece. So if you're looking at, let's say it's either a hiring process, talent management strategy, even your overall strategy, day-to-day work, what can you stop doing right now? Just eliminate. Legacy behaviors, policy, practices, what can you just stop doing literally overnight?
Bad interviews is always good.
Bad interviews is a good one.
Yeah.
Bad video interviews in particular are a good one. If you ask people what they can stop doing, something amazing happens, Rick. The energy level goes up, the stress goes down because people are taking things off their plate. Bottom line.
No more TPS reports. No more.
Yeah, why are we doing it? Exit interviews, why are we doing them? It's too late, by the way, when you do an exit interview.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, exit interviews have a purpose. I think they're grounded in a purpose of being able to, if you can gather the intel from the person, if they're really open and honest. I mean, that's feedback that you normally don't get. But I think it's important to exit people.
Well, I'll throw it to you this way. Okay, the Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report.
So, God, you're not quoting Tom Cruise on here.
So exit interviews is, again, you think about Minority Report. We want to get that detail before they leave, right?
Yes.
So come up with the pre-exit interview, if you will. Call it whatever you want
to. Okay, I like that.
But get to those issues before it happens.
Then it becomes a non-issue. I mean,
then it's a non-issue,
yeah.
Right? Anyway. So we got back to what you can eliminate. Just things that are on reports, documents, documentation that are not essential that we can take off, or we can digitize, or we can outsource, but stop doing it within the organization. So free those things up. By the way, we just did this with a couple of organizations, notably the city of Irvine, with their HR team. And they came up with several hundred things they could eliminate in a span of about 45 minutes. Because once you ask people what is no longer relevant, it's amazing what comes out. But also, people haven't often been asked in years about what they can stop doing.
God, I'd love to see that. All right, so you're really questioning what you've done in the past. You're looking at whether or not those things are actually, productive to the business, so they're going to help innovate or move the business forward, and then you're eliminating those things.
Yeah, if it doesn't contribute directly to the value of your direction, value proposition, or your strategic direction, then why are you doing it at the end of the day? If it's not providing value to employees, stakeholders, community, sustainability, if it doesn't have some value to your overall objectives, then why are you doing it?
Okay, so you mentioned video interviews, right? So that's kind of a big thing. Are you talking about like the one-way video interviews or actually a video conversation? Because I would agree with you, like the one-way video interviews I think are completely a waste of time in the interview process. Doesn't give you a true picture of who a person is.
Yeah, well, hopefully you're doing video interviews this way, that the candidate has already gone through a series of videos to know what you're all about in terms of what your culture is, what you stand for, what your purpose is, so they have some context. Secondly, to your point, it's a two-way video conversation. And secondly, that video interviewer, this happens all the time. If you're on camera, the video interview has their questions up in front of them, and they're looking at the sheet. They never once look at the interview subject. I see that all the time. It just happened this week. I sat in and audited one. And the interviewer was not paying attention to what the interviewee was doing.
Just taking notes.
This is fundamental.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So what would be the one thing that they should eliminate from a hiring process?
Well, first of all, question yourself. If you get into this rotation where you're having the candidates exposed to 5, 6, a dozen, 20 interviews up front, there's a point where that's not doing you any good in terms of time, in terms of value or quality of the diligence, and it's certainly not helping the candidate coming in. It's sending a wrong message.
Any more than one to maybe max 2 on-site interviews is a complete waste of time. If you can't make a decision, then you really need to reevaluate the questions you're asking and gather the evidence you need to make a decision. Because I've come across this like you. Too many times you get out of conversation with somebody, well, I'm just not sure about that person. Then you didn't ask the right questions. So, okay. So, so now once we've kind of eliminated some things, what do we do next?
Well, then we start to look at what we can create.
Okay.
Again, in a frame of reference about what our value proposition is, at the end of the day, what we want in this case, our talent development or talent management system to look like. That's our objective. And then start to look at what we can create that will make it more effective to get to that point. What kind of systems, processes, streamlined ways of getting to candidates we can look at that are new, fundamentally new.
And you don't have to create the wheel. You can just take somebody else's existing process or better it, right? Or just, are you talking about tweaking what you have and making it better, or what?
It's both tweaking it, taking what others are doing well, but also applying it to your business model. Because yours is not like anybody else's. And then secondly, you may find new fundamentally different ways of doing it. And that's what you want to open it up to your entire team. So if you've got an 8-person talent team, opening it up to the entire team to really look strategically at how you can improve it. Again, I want to emphasize, these could be small steps, incremental steps, but some may lead into a breakthrough for you.
Okay. So what would be a good thing to create for a hiring process?
I mean,
maybe a best practice. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but based on kind of some of the clients that you had and some of the work, like what would be something that would be innovative? I mean, I think of maybe I talk about the Amazon interview process, which is, they do 90% of their decision is made based on whether or not somebody fits the cultural values of the organization. And the questions are asked deliberately to bring those up, to gain evidence of whether or not, so like I'm a big proponent of behavioral interviewing, right? I don't think most people do that. I think a lot of people they get into what they're comfortable with. It's really no different than maybe if you went to interview at McDonald's. Can you work this week? When can you start? How much money does it make? Okay, thanks, bye.
And it doesn't even matter what the person does. So we talk about something that's innovative in a work environment. So we're changing the nature of the interview question. So it's behavioral, but also we're trying to get to how much creativity do they have? How much accurate judgment do they have? How do they make decisions? As opposed to what they've done in the past. We certainly want to get to past behaviors, but also we want to look at how much they're going to contribute new ideas to us going forward.
So how it relates to the business moving forward.
Yeah, and then the other innovation we've seen, and you've seen this too, is again the video, the outbound video recruiting, so that candidate gets a really true sense of what it's like to work for your organization. So they're hearing from people within your organization, they're seeing the work environment, you're even trying to convey to them some of the more covert aspects of your workplace.
I think those are great. Those are great marketing pieces. I will say though that a lot of times it's not really true to the culture. I would say don't lie about what your culture is. Because I've seen so many videos where you go in, it's like everybody, everybody's happy. You walk in there, it's just this somber mood, and you're like, God, I'm sad I'm in here.
Yeah, if you get one of these disconnects that on Glassdoor it turns up something else as opposed to what you're actually seeing. Yeah, but I'm talking sincere, authentic view of what your organization's all about.
What your organization is. I mean, the fact is, if I say this sometimes, like if you got an organization and you're a bunch of jerks and you all backstab each other and you thrive in that environment, then just promote to those type of people who do well there. Yeah. Don't try and portray that you're some utopian environment that everybody loves working at. You come here, you're going to get crushed. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah, there's something else you brought up too, and this has to do with people already on board with you, particularly in an entrepreneurial environment. Realize that if you go through the maturity curve as you're starting a company, some of the people that started with you are no longer going to be a fit. And you've seen that as even the big players, Facebook, Amazon, as they grew over the years, you see players that started with them that exited fairly early on, over and over. So it's that constant evaluation. Are people contributing? Are they going to help you help you grow, reach the kind of maturity you want to get to.
Got it. Okay. Next piece after create.
Uh, the other piece is that we want to look strategically at the business from a couple of standpoints. One is, have we set an environment where everybody has the shared purpose, right? Shared vision, but they also understand what our overall strategy is in the going to market. That goes across the entire talent spectrum. No matter what role they're doing, they can speak to your strategy just as well as your CEO can. That's absolutely essential in today's market.
That's communication too. Making sure that
huge
everybody's
communication. Yeah.
bought into that.
And it's all about alignment, internal alignment across the organization.
Yeah.
So in the years past, we still do this. We use something called an immerse map, which is a business visual, which allows people to actually see the strategy the same way the executive team does, and then get involved with that strategy in terms of looking at what potential markets are there, what the customers are saying, what internal operations can be innovated. So literally, we've created these business visuals for years. One of the largest privately held companies in Orange County just went through this process to introduce their performance management system. But first, they had to get people on the same page about where the business was going before they introduced the new performance management system.
Sure.
It sounds obvious, but people don't do it. But
Yeah,
once
communication from the top is always, it's always kind of fuzzy.
it's absolutely
times.
essential.
Not always. A lot of times it's fuzzy.
This is from our own data. The shelf life of, I should say, the cycle in terms of engaging people to strategy is around 3 to 4 years. In other words, the CEO gets up and does a roadshow, whatever, once every 3 or 4 years. That's the average. For some companies, it's as long as a decade when they engage their people to where they're actually going. Some companies are better. When you're in a startup, it's easier because you're a small team, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can talk real time. The larger you get, though, the more the distant employees get from where you're actually going.
Yeah, I think that's why I love startups so much.
Yeah,
I'm
isn't that
drawn to
true?
them because
Yeah.
you can move just so much faster in the communication. I mean, but there is that problem when you're moving so fast that you don't communicate effectively,
Yeah, you get, that's true.
and strategy gets swept under the carpet a lot of times.
It does.
Yeah.
But I do like the instant feedback. When we work with a lot of startups, and so the immediate feedback from the marketplace, what's working, what's not. Let's face it, Instagram, 3 months into their business model, they pivoted away from their starting business model, which ultimately led to the sale to Facebook.
Yeah.
But again, there was a case where they read the early signals, the early pivot points, and were able to make a change.
All right. What's our fourth piece?
The fourth piece is this idea of influence.
Okay.
And this is under the banner of culture. And what I mean by influence is helping everyone in the organization form their own channels, formal and informal, of stakeholders inside and outside the organization that will help enable them personally and organizationally to succeed. Now, let me just relate this. In marketing sense, people know this. You always look for strategic partners, strategic alliances to further your business. This is a case where I'm suggesting for our internal talent, we give them the tools, the techniques, and the avenues to form channels to improve their own personal performance, but also in terms of creating new lines of communication that may not have been there before.
Yeah, you know what? And this kind of goes into play when you are hiring, really cultivating a referral program, right? And making your people champions of the organization. Now, we're also talking about influence from the perspective of kind of creating your people as like creating their own brand or their brand influence.
It's part of the personal brand, but let me take this, be very specific. So let's take the HR function, because we just got through talking to several hundred HR people across 800 companies in November, December.
Okay.
And we did this next practice discussion with them. And so the conversation was this: as an HR leader, how do you form new channels of influence within your executive team and do that legitimately so it doesn't come across as forced? Because
So I mean like having a seat at the table.
yeah, it's even beyond that now, because we've talked about being a strategic partner for years.
Correct.
But coming at it with like a market-based approach in really understanding where the business is going, and then starting to form both formal and informal alliances with the entire executive team.
Sure.
That has to be a deliberate, intentional kind of effort across the entire executive team, not just say with a CFO or whoever HR is reporting to at that time. So it takes some thought, and it really is, again, both in formal and informal channels that have to be developed. Because what we're ultimately trying to get to is get people to buy into our ideas, right? Get
Correct.
committed to where we're going.
Correct. But how does this correlate though into like a hiring process? Like where's the influence piece on that? Like what am I focusing it on?
Yeah, I think it's about someone joining your organization and helping them gain an understanding of both within their function, but also across silos, how they can engage with the entire organization.
Okay.
What are the potential channels they can leverage, how you can do it. And again, we've seen a lot of companies form in years past cross-functional teams, cross-siloed teams. Those seem to be effective, but they take work and they take time. So that's a technique the organization may want to continue to resort to.
So in terms of hiring, a lot of people tend to want to make a move because they're not seeing growth in their current company, right? So what you're doing is maybe connecting the dots for, hey, here's how we can help you grow. Here's the, if those things are important to them, like I want to be able to have cross, pollinizational, ability, or I want to be able to like get my nose into different parts of the business. That's what you're doing. That's what you're displaying that there.
Absolutely. So if we take an initiative, whether it be a new go-to-market, new product, new service, internal quality initiative, you name it, sustainability initiative, that's done. All those are executed in a cross-functional way.
Okay.
And that takes, again, it takes extra work, time, and energy because our natural inclination is to go silo, right?
So very true.
But here's what we're also building by doing that. We're building collaboration skills. We're building better judgment. We're creating those channels of influence that we're looking for.
So we're creating a better company.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We're just about getting low on time here. So what would be 2 or 3 key takeaways that you can give the audience so they can plug into their business today?
Okay, first of all, look to create an employee experience before they hit your door, before they walk in. That's
before you even post the job description.
Yeah, exactly. Create the experience ahead of time.
Yeah.
Secondly, don't get locked into traditional specs and job descriptions, which many cases, not all the time, exclude the very people that you want to have come in. Be thinking broader and looking for those skill sets: peripheral vision, decision-making, judgment, creativity. Agile organizations. I also bundle this with nimble organizations, closely related. Who are the people that can help you move in new directions if necessary in a span of a day? They recognize an emerging trend, emerging threat, emerging opportunity, help you pivot to that overnight. This is especially
so what you're saying is
entrepreneurs.
hire for talent above hiring for skills.
Absolutely.
I mean, that brings us full circle.
Right.
All right. Well,
we're not ignoring skills, by the way, but we're also putting above that these other judgment factors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time for today's show. Scott, thanks so much for your time and investment
Rick.
again. And I really want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Thanks so much for being our 3rd guest on the show and our LinkedIn Live show. So now you have a couple of events coming up, so I want to give you a few minutes to plug those and then tell everybody how they can reach you.
Okay. For the audience, for the past 11 years, Executive Next Practice Forums, ENP Forums, also known as Entrepreneurial Next Practices or Enterprise Next Practices, you name it. That means we don't have to change the monogram on the towel, by the way, ENP. These forums have been going nationwide, and we bring together all industry sectors and all C-suite functions just because of what we just talked about. That is, your next idea may come from an adjacent industry or from a functional area that you don't normally associate with. We put the best and the brightest in front of you with content that is one step ahead of the audience. So next week, it's the Healthcare Summit. We'll look at the digitization of the $3 trillion healthcare industry, which is rapidly happening. We'll look at, after that, Communications Summit with Roger Love, the #1 voice coach in the country, will be with us on February 21st.
He's the guy who sings, right?
What's that?
He's a singer, right?
That's part of the ways he coaches through singing. Yeah,
Okay.
He coached Jeff Bridges in Crazy Heart, by the way.
Cool.
He was fantastic. He'll be joined with Roman Gabriel, Deb Carlson, Lee Steinberg, who will speak from the sports and business world about how to communicate better. That's February 21st, and then we keep going. We have Steve Jobs. Steve
Jobs, he's dead.
Thanks. Steve Forbes will kill me on that one.
I like
Steve Forbes will be joining us on April 24th, along with his team, to look at stakeholder leadership. In other words, a whole new leadership model.
Gotcha.
So we invite your listeners to please join us at those.
And they can all find you at, what's your URL to find you?
Easy one, enpinstitute.com. Just
All right.
just Google ENP or Executive Next Practices.
Now,
It'll
I
take
would
you
have
right
thought it
to
was
us.
super amazing if you could bring Steve Jobs back from the dead and get him on one of your things.
Well, actually, we do have the hologram coming. So we'll
Okay,
just put him up.
sweet. That'd be kind of fun. All right, I want to thank our listening audience for tuning in to this week's episode of Higher Power. Quick thanks to our team, our engineer Decker, our producers Andrea Ballin, Shanti Ryle, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. We love your feedback after all the shows about you. You can join the Higher Power Radio community at Higher, that's H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, R-A-D-I-O.com. You can reach me at rick@stridesearch.com. Tune in next week. Our guest is going to be Kelly Robinson. Kelly is the CEO of Red Dot Media. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.